Everyone wants to use AI agents in their business right now. But here's the truth: most of those agents are going to fail because they're missing something critical: the right data foundation. In this video, I'll show you why data is the real backbone of AI agents. And I'll explain what this means for building AI agents that actually work in your business. For starters, let's talk about how data provides the context for the LLM that's at the center of most AI agents. So, at the center of most AI agents is a large language model. So, an LLM acts sort of like a reasoning engine that interprets instructions, draws inferences, and makes plans. But you need to remember that large language models don't reason in a vacuum. They're largely reasoning over information that's provided in the context, meaning information that's provided at the moment of inference when it's receiving a query or some sort of request. Without structured, relevant data, the LLM at the center of an AI agent has no real grounding. But in contrast, supplying high quality, task relevant data gives a large language model specific knowledge about the task or tasks that you want it to accomplish. But it's actually more than that. And this brings us to our next point. Data provides an AI agent information about your particular business. So, for an AI agent to be useful, it needs to understand your business, your customers, your products, your processes and operations, and so on. Understanding that information doesn't come from the model itself, it comes from data that you provide to the AI agent. So, when you give an AI agent information about your various products, your customers, and the interactions that those customers have had with your business, your internal processes, standard operating procedures, SOPs, regulations that might apply to your business, and so on, then an AI agent can reason with real context about your company. Without that data, most AI agents, or I should say the large language model at the core of an AI agent, is going to provide generic responses or make bad plans. So, the richer and more relevant the data is that you give to an AI agent, the more precisely the agent can align its reasoning and planning to your tasks and operations. Next, data determines the accuracy and reliability of an agent. So, I've sort of suggested this in previous sections, but let's make it a little bit more explicit. The accuracy of an AI agent, the quality of its planning, the accuracy of its tool use and its actions, this is going to depend on the data that you give it. So, if the data that you're giving an AI agent is outdated, messy, inconsistent, or incomplete, an agent's planning and actions are generally going to be much lower quality. Having said that, if the data that you're giving to your agent is generally clean, up to date, and well structured, the agent's plans and actions are going to become measurably more accurate and more reliable. By the way, if you're serious about using AI in your business, you probably want to figure out if you're ready to start using AI. So find the link in the description below and go take my AI readiness assessment. It's about 16 questions. It'll take you only a few minutes. It's free. So find the link in the description below and evaluate how ready your business is to use AI effectively. Next, data powers learning and adaptation. Now, this is something that most people really forget about. A lot of people have maybe a sort of hidden expectation that AI learns or improves over time, and that's half true. AI systems can learn and improve over time, but that process doesn't happen automatically, with some caveats. But for the most part, that process doesn't happen automatically. You need to build systems that can train an AI system to improve over time. And guess what that requires? Data. So here, it's important to remember that every action and decision that an AI agent makes actually becomes fuel for retraining that agent at a point in the future. Even if it's making mistakes, you can collect information about the types of mistakes that an AI agent makes, and you can use that data to train the agent and correct its behavior so it stops making those mistakes in the future. So every decision, every user interaction, and even every failure produces a data point that we can log, label, and store to train an agent to improve itself later on. And if you do this right, better data means measurable improvements. Clean, representative training data sets help us train an AI agent to reduce hallucinations, improve decisions, And this is especially true about edge cases, cases where an AI agent or an AI system might have very high uncertainty about the right thing to do. If you can collect examples about those rare cases and edge cases, you can use those to sharpen its judgment about those circumstances. The next reason why agents need data is that data enables tool use. Now, this is another one that a lot of people forget about because I don't think that many people understand exactly how agents work. Remember, an agent typically has a large language model at the center. Then we give it access to data stores, vector databases, traditional databases, and so on. But we also give an AI agent access to tools. So things like software APIs or even small tools like calculators that can extend its natural capabilities and improve its performance. Here's the problem: agents don't always know how to use those things. If you give a large language model at the center of an agent, if you give it access to a software API for some external piece of software, it's not automatically going to understand how to use it. You often need to give it some information about that software API, but also give it some training examples to show it what good actions actually look like. So, very frequently, you need to train an AI agent how to properly use external tools. It's sort of like a human being. If you bring a human being into a business, into a workflow, and they have to use a new tool, you're typically going to have to show that human being how to use the tool set, right? Well, it's largely the same with agents. So, if you want agents in your business that can not only plan, but can also use tools to take actions and actually do real work, you're going to need to think about the data that enables that. Finally, data is part of the state that the agent operates on. Let me explain this. When you use an AI agent in your business, if you're using it alongside a human being or you want to put some agents together to work together on a particular task, they need to operate over what we would consider to be a shared persistent state. There needs to be a set of facts and information about the task and the operational environment of the business. For example, what the task is, what's already been done, what hasn't been done, who's participating, and so on. Agents and humans, when they work together inside of a business, need to operate on a shared persistent state. So, because this is a little bit abstract, let me give you an example. If you have a team of human beings and they're working on, let's say, a Google Sheet or a Google Doc, that Google document is going to have a state associated with it. It's going to have characters and information that's already been typed in or recorded. There's going to be a history of who's operated on that document, maybe some notes and other metadata or information. All of that stuff, both the surface level things that you're going to see in the document, but also the underlying metadata and other information about changes and timestamps and all of that, that in some sense is a shared persistent state for the task of working on that document, a team of humans working on a document. Okay, so that's an example of human beings, but if you're using an AI agent, it's actually very similar. An AI agent is going to need to understand the state of the task or the state of the business in which it's operating. And all of that stuff, in one way or another, is recorded and stored and transmitted as data. Now, how exactly you do this is maybe a slightly more complex topic. We'd have to get into, again, document stores, databases, memory systems, and all of these other things that enable AI agents to work. I'll table that for right now. I'll talk about it in another video in the future. But suffice it to say, an agent needs to have some sort of state that it's operating on and an awareness of that state. And all the records and the storage and the retrieval of that information, all of that stuff is really done in one way or another with various types of data. And when you build and implement an AI agent, you're going to have to think about this, the sorts of databases and CRMs and information systems that you're going to provide and how the agent is going to access those things. To kind of sum this up, system state is part of what turns an AI agent from a chatbot into a reliable operator inside of your business workflows. And state depends on data. So, if you're serious about building AI agents that actually work and actually provide value in your business, you need to think about the data. Because without the right data foundation, even the best planned AI agents are going to fail. And that failure is a lot more common than you think. A recent MIT study said that upwards of 95% of AI projects right now are failing. And it's largely because businesses are approaching AI the wrong way. So, in this next video, I'll show you why those AI projects are failing and how to design systems that actually deliver results. Check it out here. Why 95% of AI pilots fail.